Hello, everybody. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you for joining us as always. I told you guys last week that we were going to have a raceless weekend this week. It feels weird. It's very odd that we did not have any races going on, nothing to do, nowhere to be. However, would have given you a heads up, but we didn't have it. But this was the weekend for the virtual expo. So hopefully you guys were all able to sign up for a lot of the Kansas City Running Company races and enjoy all the discounts that they put out there. And boy, there were a ton of them. I know some people's debit cards were smoking at the end of this weekend. It was wild. And I'm sorry, I would have given you a heads up on that, but we honestly did not learn about it until the day before it happened. And that was a few days before even recording this podcast. So I'd say we dropped the ball on that one. We really didn't. There was nothing we could do, but it was unfortunate that I couldn't give you guys a heads up. But hopefully you saw it online or you got the email. Make sure you're on the Kansas City Running Company email list if you're not already. And that way, when things like this happen, you get the email and you are not dependent upon me because you definitely don't want that. So this week's episode is a good one. It actually ties in perfectly with what happened. This is all about Kansas City Running Company, and we're going to talk to Brad here in just a second. But before we jump in, I just want to go over schedule so I can tell you guys what we do know of right now. Because again, no race this weekend, which was really weird. But then that is not the case for quite a while now. There's a race for us to do every weekend in March. And so I just want to let you guys know where the podcast is going to be and what we're going to be doing. So here's just a real quick rundown. So our next race is on Saturday, February 25th. We'll be at the John Brown Half Marathon, and you're going to hear that referenced a few times in the talk with Brad coming up. So half marathon on Saturday. And then after that, we have the Cookie Run 5K on Sunday, March 5th. That's going to be at Waterfall Park in Independence. Hopefully you guys can come out and do that. This benefits the Girl Scouts. And yes, you can walk away with your box of Thin Mints if that's what you like. So that is on Sunday, March 5th. Saturday, March 11th. We've talked about this date a few times. This is the Westport St. Patrick's Day 4-miler. Also, the Big 12 run is going on downtown. Again, love to our folks at KC Sports Commission. But we will be at Westport St. Patrick's Day, and then we're going to be sticking around after the race to have our little one-year anniversary, our one-year birthday party for the podcast, which started at last year's Westport St. Patrick's Day 4-miler. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Then after that, we're going to fast forward to Saturday, March 18th. That is the St. Patrick's 5K. Then we're going to go after that. Saturday, March 25th, Liberty Hospital Half Marathon. So that's the biggie up in Liberty, Missouri. So the Liberty Hospital Half Marathon on March 25th. And then after that, we're into April. There's a couple races happening on April 1st. So you guys are going to have to kind of decide what you want to do. There's the Easter Egg 5K. I know that's going on for Kansas City Running Company. And then there's also the Bug Run. I think it's Jaden's Hope Bug Run. I think that's it. Yeah. And I might be doing that one just due to personal ties. But I'm talking to them. I'm actually going to try and have those folks onto the show to talk about their charity. But I understand that we're running out of time before their race is run. But either which way, we'll still be out there that first weekend in April to at least at one of those events. We're going to be somewhere. After that is Rock the Parkway. We all know about Rock the Parkway on April 8th. And then for me, it's Boston. Dun, dun, dun. And so before we get to the interview with Brad, I just want to mention one thing about Boston. Currently going on right now on the Back of the Pack podcast Facebook page, we do have a raffle because I need all the help I can get getting to Boston. Okay, you'll find the link that will take you to my charity page. I'm still trying to raise charity funds, but here's what we're doing. So if you donate $25 towards my Boston Marathon charity, you will be entered into the raffle. If you donate $50, your name will go in twice. If you donate $75, your name will go in 3 times. And if you donate $100, your name will go in 5 times. I'll give you one for free. What we're going to do is on March 15th, we're going to have a drawing. We're going to pick a name. And actually, we're going to have 3 different winners. But the first place prize is I personally, out of my own funds, am going to pay for your registration for, let's say, the Garmin Kansas City Marathon, whatever distance you want to do. If you want to run the full, I will buy your full. I will pay for it. That is on me. if you are the winner of this raffle. If you can't do that, or if you live in another state, if you're one of our few listeners that live outside of the Kansas City area, let me know what race you want. It's on me. I mean, of course, I can't pay for you to go to Boston because I can't help you with qualifying time. No kidding. That's my problem as well. But if there's a race that you want to do, I will cover your entry fee if you are the first place winner of our raffle. The second place winner is I'm going to pay for a race on September 17th for you. Your spot will be on me.
Whoa, Kyle. You're not just going to blow past that date, are you?
All right, fine. Yes, I was going to try and blow past that date, but no, let's go ahead and tell everyone what's going on here, because the cat was let out of the bag before we were ready for the cat to escape. So we finally have the KC Hustle Run. As you guys know, this is part of the Back of the Pack podcast. We had the KC Hustle Club that we started earlier this year to great success. Well, now we have the KC Hustle Run. And this is going to be coming up on September 17th, 2023. That is a Sunday. We are the second race in the Heartland 10K series. So last year it was Hope on the Hill. Hope on the Hill is moving on to do other things. Best of luck to all of our friends over at Braden's Hope for the Cure. And then we decided to just go ahead and work with Kansas City Running Company. And we now have the KC Hustle Run. 5K and 10K on Sunday, September 17th. Registration is now open. You can find us on the calendar at kansascityrunningcompany.com. You can also go to www.kchustlerun.com, and that will take you to the page with all the information, the links to registration. And then, of course, as always, as everyone else has, there is a Facebook page. Just search KC Hustle Run. So what do you think, producer Katie? Did I cover that one correctly?
Well, I'm also going to add that there is a place for sponsors. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes, we do need sponsors for this race. So as you guys know, or you probably don't know, but I'm going to tell you, this would be the first time that either producer Katie or I have organized a 5K. Now, we do have a race director. He is out there putting the race together, and we want to thank Will for all of his help so far and leading all the way up to race day. But we are going to have to go out there and find sponsors. So if you are a member of a business, or if you are self-employed, or if you think your business might be interested, then please reach out to the podcast, because we would love to talk to you about sponsorship opportunities to get the KC Hustle Run taken care of in September. We've got a charity partner announcement coming soon. So at least then you'll know who the charity partner is. Trust me, we are not just taking all this bank home with us. That would be lovely, but no, we're not doing that. This will go to a charity partner, and we'll have that information shortly.
All right, Kyle, you can get back to explaining the rest of your raffle prizes.
Okay, thank you. And then the third place winner is going to get a Back of the Pack podcast t-shirt. And then we'll probably hook you up with one of these really, really cool 3D printed Back of the Pack medal holders that producer Katie's been working on. They are super cool. And so we'll throw one of those at you along with a t-shirt for the third place winner. So that's what we're doing. So if you hear this and you really want to help me out, really need your help, go to the Back of the Pack podcast Facebook page. You will see several times the links to the Give and Gain page, which is mine for the Boston Marathon charity. Okay, this goes to the Boston Athletic Association charity. It does not come through me at all. You are donating straight to them on my behalf to get my part of the agreement settled up to go run the Boston Marathon. I am now officially registered for that race. My bib number is supposed to be emailed to me sometime this week. So I went and took care of that. I was able to do that. The only thing left is to finish my commitment to the charity, and we still have a ways to go. So I desperately, desperately need your help. So go put your name in the raffle. You're helping me out, and you have a chance to win some stuff. So everybody wins in this situation. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Again, we had the virtual expo this weekend, and we've got a lot more information coming up on future episodes about races coming up. So without further ado, this is an interview I did with Brad Ziegler from Kansas City Running Company. I want to thank him very much for his time and coming on the episode. I know that this is a busy, busy dude, especially because he came on a couple days before running this virtual expo. So thank you to Brad. Thank you to Kansas City Running Company. And everyone just sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, everyone. We have our guest on the show right now. This is Brad Ziegler from the KC Running Company. This is the big man, the head honcho. Brad, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a great new experience for me.
Yeah, you said this is your first podcast that you've recorded on, correct?
That's correct. I've listened to lots of them. Never dreamed that anybody would have any interest in listening to me drone on one, but happy to have the opportunity.
I thought that too. I thought no one would really care about a running podcast, yet here we are doing well. So
I think running podcasts are great. I think what you're doing is great. There's a lot of stuff going on now with people sharing their experiences with running, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. I'm glad to contribute in some small way.
yeah, it's amazing all the stories that are out there about running. I've come across a lot of them just as I've been doing this for the last year. But speaking of that, I've told you actually have a very interesting background, especially when it comes to this, because you are doing all the races for Kansas City Running Company. All right. Is it fair to say race director for your title?
Yeah, I guess we're a pretty small organization, so we don't worry too much about titles, but there's only 4 of us here. So we all do a little bit of everything, overlap quite a bit. But, my probably area of responsibility more than others is on race promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the end of the day, just trying to connect people with each other and with our events. And so that's why I think what you're doing is so great.
Okay. So how did you get started in this? Because you don't really have a history a long time ago history in the running world. You were in a much different profession from what I understand. So how did you go from where you used to be to where you are now?
A long and circuitous path. I started out as a lawyer out of law school, young lawyer, and did that for about a dozen years in different capacities, both in private practice and then working for companies, and then made a big switch, a long time ago, 20 years ago plus, to work for a not-for-profit. I had a passion about arthritis and got the opportunity to work for the Arthritis Foundation, and there was involved in a lot of different types of fundraising events, one of which was our Jingle Bell Run 5K that we did. And we had a Joints in Motion training program where people would raise money and get a chance to travel as a group to a out-of-town race that was exotic locales and such. And I worked with a guy there named Troy Fitzgerald, who was in charge more specifically of the fundraising events. And he parted ways with the Arthritis Foundation to go into the for-profit world. And he chose the mortgage industry about the time the mortgage industry went upside down. And I got caught up in a big reorganization at the Arthritis Foundation where they downsized from 52 chapters to 10 chapters. And so at a certain point in 2009 or so, we were both trying to figure out what to do next. And unemployment is the mother of invention, right? And so we came across this. Troy's much more experienced. He's a runner. He'd worked for running shoe stores, and had experience with putting on events and timing events, and saw an opportunity. And so we partnered up in 2009, 2010 timeframe and started helping charities. And what really appealed to me about it was I was never good at and don't try to do anymore any timing. I'm not a timer. That doesn't click for me. But I really enjoy working with organizations to help them raise money through running events.
Yeah.
We saw an opportunity to be able to make a difference for organizations about during a time, 2010, 2011, where running was taking off a little bit and social media was taking off. And there was just a lot of things that we felt like we could bring to the table to make it easier for organizations to put on events, and more importantly, to continue to put on events year after year and not get burned out and not fail to keep really good running events alive because they were so busy in everything else they were doing for their not-for-profit. So one thing became another. Rock the Parkway was one of the first things we started on our own. We filled in the gaps in our schedule when we were helping third parties with races of our own, and Rock the Parkway hit from the very beginning and kind of helped us get established, and we've just been going crazy ever since.
Oh, wow. So what, Rock the Parkway 2010, that was pretty much your first race, is that correct?
That was the first one.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
That was our first. We had a Santa run before then, and we had an earlier version of Sweetheart Run, which we just recently did then. So they're a little bit older events actually.
Okay.
But Rock the Parkway was kind of the first hit, and we originally wanted to do a 5K and a 10K and then add a half marathon down the line. And we just decided to say, what the heck, let's do it all from the very beginning. So originally it had 3 events. Now it's 2 events because logistically it was too hard to do all 3. We got a tremendous response to it that first year. And I'm not sure how we implemented it, quite honestly, now as I think back, because we were just hardly any of us, but it's been the cornerstone of our business, and has helped us by doing races. and partnering with charities to raise money, it's allowed us to then provide services to charities at a lower cost and help them be more successful with their events. And we're busy just all year round.
Yeah, I'd say anymore, you guys have at least 2 events almost every month at this point, unless it's dead of the winter. I get that.
Well, even dead of the winter, we're busy.
There's still a few.
We have this. Yeah, we have this weekend off, and then we're going to be busy every weekend for as long as I can see on the calendar. So that's great, and that means the running community is strong, and there's lots of folks like you that are out there willing to lace them up on a regular basis and follow us around and do events that we're working on, as well as other events here in the area and around the country. So we owe everything to the running community.
Have you seen it bouncing back pretty well since the coronavirus? Because that really kind of stomped things down for a while.
Yeah, the smaller events are back and even maybe bigger than they were in 2019.
Okay.
And when I say smaller events, 500 or less. The larger events aren't yet. There's still a ways to go, and we're still trying to figure out how to help them grow, whether it's Rock the Parkway or the Groundhog Run or the Going the Distance 5K, 10K events that have been around for a long time. They're maybe back to 2/3 to 3/4 of what they were in their peak year. And what was crazy, unfortunate, was late 2019 and early 2020 was great. Things are really cooking and people were signing up, and then the pandemic shut everything down for a while. And so I think it's going to come back, and we're going to have to continue to look at, we can't necessarily do the things the same way we've always done them and the way that we did them before the pandemic, and not even necessarily as related to the pandemic, just it's been 3 years now.
Yeah.
And the world evolved, people's desires and preferences have evolved. And so we've got to make sure that we're evolving with them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So you're saying that even Rock the Parkway, which now my first half marathon ever was the 2011 Rock the Parkway. So I've kind of come up with this race through the years, and even it's not back to 100% yet.
No, I think in its peak year, it was about 7,200. And last year it was about 5,000, 5,200.
Okay.
And I would say we'll be bigger than last year, but not 7,200 yet. It's
still not to the 7,200.
Still not yet. And it's interesting. There's a lot of races. There's lots of new races all the time. And so there's lots of competition within the industry. We compete with ourselves. Even one of the things that I do, probably to our own detriment, is if things are slow or races are smaller, I just start new races. I'm not great at necessarily getting them growing again. So we'll fill in with something else. John Brown half marathon coming up, a little bit. That's new for 2023, and it's small, and we kept it small to start with, but it's a different animal, obviously, than Rock the Parkway. There's no streets that'll be closed. We're going to be out running on a trail, and I just saw enough people being interested in that experience. And quite honestly, the fewer streets that we're closing, the less expensive it is for us to put the race on. And so we were able to offer a half marathon at a different price point with some of the amenities that Rock the Parkway offers, but not a lot of the costs associated with closing all of Ward Parkway and all around Loose Park and such. So just sometimes I overdo it, or we overdo it in terms of coming up with new and different things, and we're competing against ourselves. But I think the more different kinds of opportunities you can offer people, the more likely you can pull in people that might not otherwise be interested.
Oh, 100%. And I'll be out there at John Brown. I'm excited to be a part of the inaugural race. So I hope it's not too cold. Okay. So I know another one of the ways that you keep people involved is you have set up series. And so with the exception, I think 1 year where I was out due to injury, and then the other with the pandemic, I've done almost every Heartland series. Now, is the Heartland 39.3, was that your brainchild?
Well, that was our first series. Yes.
Yeah.
It was a way to try to cross-sell. There was people that were doing one of those races, but maybe not the other. And I have to be honest with you, I can't remember. It was really early in the Rock the Parkway history that we added the other 2 races and formed that series, and that did pretty well. And so then we started the Heartland 30K series in the fall with the Plaza 10K and a couple other races along that line. And that's continued to be one of our stronger series. But if we've done the fall fermentation series, we've done just everything where we can think of. I used to kid that it's like races that start with the letter B series, and just whatever we can come up with is a commonality in time or in types of events. And the main thing is just to, like I say, cross support each other in these races. Sometimes races are just getting started, and so they can maybe be a little bit bigger right off the bat than they would have been if they hadn't been part of a series. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's exposing the people to different parts of town. I'm really big on that. Introducing people to races that they may never have tried before. We've got a series that we started last year, I think, the Kansas City Classic series. Yeah. And I was seeing races that had been around for 30 or 40 years, and I was worried they weren't going to be able to continue. And people had maybe begun to take them for granted or just never ventured out to whatever town they were located in. And so we started that out, and now it's a Hospital Hill Run, the Groundhog Run, the KC Zoo Run, the Tiblo Trot, the Going the Distance Run, which used to be the Amy Thompson Run.
Yeah.
And we added the Thanksgiving Day 5K this year. When I was at Arthritis Foundation, we used to go to the Thanksgiving Day 5K and put flyers under windshield wipers. And these were flyers that we printed off of a computer. We didn't use a printer, a professional printer. It wasn't cardstock. It was just copy paper. But these races have been around a long time, very diverse in their locations and their courses and even their distances. And the hope there is to, help introduce new generations to races that have been around for a long time, remind people that not to take these races for granted, that they were of high quality, supporting good organizations. And the hope is that will continue to grow and continue to impact those races.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that you do that because, to my knowledge, now correct me if I'm wrong, but Hospital Hill, that's not you. That's not Kansas City Running Company.
No, Hospital Hill's been around for 50 years. This is their 50th year, yeah. Yep. And they call it the granddaddy, and it's really truly that. But I believe the whole time has been run by a volunteer committee that hires a race director and a crew to help implement it. And we're one of those crews. We help with the course setup and a little bit of some of the local regulatory work and such. But it's put on and is owned by that group, that organization that puts it on. And that's the way a lot of these races are. They're put on by a group of volunteers. Sometimes it's an organization, the Going the Distance 5K is by the Brain Injury Association, a very small organization who has been able to keep this thing going for, more than 30 years. And the Amy Thompson Run was once, one of the main runs in town, and it's still a really good run with a really strong following, but it's just subject to the competition of so many different races in the time frame. And it's in the springtime, and a lot of these races are in very popular times of the year to run, which makes it more challenging. So we're just saying, hey, give this a try if you haven't. Come back and try it again if it's been a while, or stick with it if it's one of the ones that you like.
Yeah, I think you guys did get rid of one of the races I did like, the Boots and Daisy Dukes. Wasn't that you?
That was one of our KC Running Company events. Yeah. So the story behind that was we had an intern and a young gal that was out at KU, and she was talking about going to, who's the country star that's out at Kenny Chesney. Okay. She was going to go to the Kenny Chesney show out at Arrowhead, and talked about how it was like a class reunion because all of her high school friends would be meeting out there for this concert. And me being old and completely out of touch, I was amazed that young people were into country music. I thought country music was an old person thing. And so I said, well, we need a country music race. We need a country music themed race. And I don't know that we necessarily achieved all of our goals with that, but it was a fun. And that's kind of what we do here. And the great part about working for KC Running Company is Troy, the owner, is great about saying, you got an idea, do it. He's completely open to it. And we've had some really bad ideas, and we've had some good ideas, and some that were good ideas for just a short period of time, and everything in between. So the Boots and Daisy Dukes was a good one.
Yeah, I remember that one because you could unvelcro the ribbon, and the medal was also a belt buckle, and that cracked me up.
I think we had a category of like fastest time in cowboy boots. Whoever ran the race in the fastest time wearing cowboy boots got something special. And
that was not me, but
we had some good stuff. Lots of hay bales.
There definitely was. Yeah, so I don't know. That was a good one. I don't think you do rock the Stockyard anymore. Did that one fall through?
No, Rock the Stockyards was a good race, and the victim of gentrification.
Yeah.
We had it in the Crossroads originally. We started in the summertime. We didn't have very many races, and I said, well, why don't we do an early evening race,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be easier. Not remembering or realizing that the hottest part of the day is around 6:00, 6:30 at night in the summertime. And the first race that we did down the Crossroads was deathly hot.
Yep.
We had lots of people show up. We partnered with grinders and had live music afterwards, and had a tremendous turnout. Had lots of fun. We had cool medals, and then little by little we started running afoul of what used to be empty warehouses that were turning into wedding venues. And Saturday night we ran it in the evening, and Saturday night we were shutting down streets, and people couldn't get their wedding guests to their weddings or their receptions in the Crossroads. And so the police department said, you really need to find someplace else. And so we moved to what was at the time kind of a desolate part of town, and that was the West Bottoms.
Yep.
We did the race down there for a few years, but then little by little, there's apartments being built, and the Hy-Vee Arena got renovated and reopened and is now a crazy busy athletic facility. And once again, people were mad because we were closing down the streets on a Saturday night for a race. And so we finally threw our hands up and said, we give.
Yeah.
It was a popular race, and people all the time ask us about it, and we'd love to do it again, because we had lots of fun. We had live music, and it was a great evening wherever it was held. But it's just finding that spot. And that's really the toughest part about our business right now, is finding places for races. We recently have had to move the cookie run out of Blue Hawk over in Overland Park. And, I thought the police department originally suggested Blue Hawk to us as a location. And we went out there, and I could see what it was going to become. And I wanted to get our foot in the door while it was still not yet it,
right,
so that when it did develop, we would have a history there. COVID slowed down the development efforts out there, and now as it's starting to do well, traffic has picked up, and sure enough, we're pushed out because it's developing. So we're moving that out to Waterfall Park in March and Independence, and hope that people will follow us there, because we want to do a good job raising money for the Girl Scouts.
I actually do enjoy Waterfall Park. I'm signed up for the cookie run. I'll be there. I've done that. It's a course that I've done a lot, but I always feel like I do well. So I want to keep doing it to try and improve on my times there.
It's kind of nice because it's got some out and back sections of it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think too many out and backs is kind of a lazy way to set up a course, but we're a little bit confined there. And some people prefer it. Some people like seeing other people in the race and get a chance to do high fives or check out. Even if you're a competitive runner, you can, as you get to a turnaround, you can kind of see who's behind you and how close they are without having to turn around and look over your shoulder. So it's a sneaky way to check out your competition, but hopefully we'll get a good response.
Yeah, definitely hope so. So let's see, you kind of covered something else I was going to ask, was how you came up with all these races, because you've definitely come up with some that just I would have never thought of. So would you say most of them are you, or is it just the whole committee, just throwing out ideas on what races you come up with and kind of how you design the medal and your themes?
It's everybody here. I mean, everybody at our organization is coming up with ideas. And again, the beauty of it is that we have the freedom to do that and pursue that. And, Troy's investing the money in the concept, and hopefully it hits at least long enough to pay back all the banners and such that we purchased. That's what makes it fun for me, because in my prior jobs, I really tended to develop a sense of been there, done that. Mm-hmm. And you would think I would have trouble with that, when we're doing the 14th annual Rock the Parkway or whatever. But if we're getting to throw out a new John Brown half marathon or a new Rock Island Trail half marathon that we started a couple of years ago, new 5Ks and such, I think this is going to air on Sunday, I believe you told me. So by that time, everybody hopefully will have heard about our newest new thing that we're extremely excited about. And that's going to be in the first weekend in November. Okay. And what you used to know as the Longview Half Marathon, 10K and 5K is going to become the Yeti Endurance Weekend at Longview Lake.
What?
And we're going to go 2 days with a 5K and 10K on Saturday and a half marathon. And for the first time, we've never pulled off a marathon on our own. We've worked on marathons, but never done one on our own. We're adding a marathon to it with a Yeti theme, which is the fun part. We're going to have lots of fun stuff going on with the whole Yeti concept. And quite honestly, Troy came up with the idea of adding a marathon and going 2 days because the biggest downside of Longview was always the parking, right?
Yes. Yes.
Last year to an extreme because of the weather. And so this allows us to add more events, but shrink the crowd that's coming on either day to a smaller crowd that can hopefully more easily park. It used to be last year we had the 5K that started well after the half marathon, but they were arriving when the half marathon was trying to get started, and they were trying to find a place to park on the same roads that we were trying to run on, and it was just a disaster. And so there's a practical implication of going 2 days, and that is more people will run in total, but it'll have a lesser impact on the parking situation. And it'll give people who are like you, want to try to push the envelope all the time. It'll give you a chance to do, if you would like, 2 races over the course of the weekend instead of having to choose one distance or the other.
See, I was going to ask. So is there going to be any kind of a 2-day kind of combined medal if you do like the 5K one day and the half the next day?
That's to be determined, but I can't imagine there would be some sort of additional benefit for taking on such a challenge.
One would think. Well, that's super cool. I feel like we got the scoop here on this show.
Definitely.
I know it'll be announced by the time this comes out, but you're telling me before it was announced, so I'm in the know.
That's a good example of 10 days ago, we had to even come up with the idea, and we're opening registration on Saturday. Now,
oh, wow.
I also say, hopefully on Sunday, there's not a whole bunch of people that are spitting when I talk about the Yeti Endurance Weekend because they've struggled with getting registered over the course of the 2 days. But, once we have an idea, we run with it and go with it. And you have to, because, people are looking, they're asking, what's the story with Longview this year? When's Longview going to be? I've already had people asking about it. They plan it well ahead of what we plan sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And so if we want to implement something new, we've got to get it going. And so hopefully it's something that people think's popular. And kind of if you've done Longview 6 or 7 times in a row and you're like, wow, do I really want to go out there again? Say, well, check out this new version of it. It's in the same general area, maybe some of the same course, but a little different spin on it. And, Longview's a great place.
Yeah.
We've had some nice medals and hoodies and such associated with it, but it's not as fun as Yeti. So we're gonna do the Yeti in 2023 and hopefully have a lot of fun out there doing it.
Yeah, I'll bet that's going to be a blast, and no limit to the cool medals that you can come up with for that particular theme with that series of races. Yeah, because I was out there for the, because the Great Plains 10K runs there as well. Yep. So you do that at the end of September, and then you're right back there in November. So, no, I think mixing it up is a great idea.
Yeah, quite honestly, Great Plains is a project. We're trying to figure out what can we do to revitalize Great Plains. It's benefited by being part of the Heartland 30K.
Yes.
A lot of people who are more excited about the Plaza 10K and like the concept of a series.
Yep.
It's benefited for that, and we're going to continue to look for it. In a perfect world, we try to find a different location just because Longview or now the Yeti weekend is going to be right after it. But easier said than done. These 10K courses are even harder to find than 5K courses. So we'll see what we can do to make that continue to be a draw. And, the people are really loyal to that 30K series. And so we want to make sure it's a great experience for them so they can be glad they signed up again.
Yeah, oddly enough, 2022 was the first year I had done the series. I had never done that series before, but I very much enjoyed it. All 3 races were really fun. The finisher medal was great. The sweatshirt was great. So no complaints. I had a blast with that one.
We have one more series that we started this year, and it kicks off on the 25th, and that's the Hometown Half Series.
Yeah.
And this is yet another effort to try to introduce people to races that they might not have otherwise considered or known about, get them out of their comfort zone a little bit, maybe drive a little bit further than they would have driven otherwise. But we're real excited about that. And, like I say, it's the first race is this coming Saturday, the 25th, down in Osawatomie. That race is sold out. And that's because we capped it at a low number. We want to make sure we can figure out how to do it well and don't want to have a whole bunch of people down there and we're not executing it right. So it'll be a good race. It's just we're going to keep it small this first time around. But the good news is if you haven't signed up, if you weren't able to get signed up, that doesn't mean that you can't do the series because the race series has, I think, 7 options to achieve 5 races, something like that.
Yep, 5 of 7. Yep.
Yeah, we've got a Facebook page started on it, and we've been introduced in some of the races on there, but they're mostly races in smaller towns. Some of them are bigger races. The Liberty Half is a much bigger race, been around for a while, and it's one of the races. And then some of them are small, like John Brown. The Clinton Half is part of it. The Rock Island Trail race down in Pleasant Hill is going to be part of it. And so these are races that are mainly in smaller towns and show off the towns or draw people to towns that they wouldn't otherwise get to see. And so we'll see how it goes. I'm excited about it. I like the medal because I helped design it, but I think the concept will be fun. And I think the crews that make the trek to these locations will be glad they did and feel good about it. If nothing else, the great breakfasts that they're destined to find in these towns after they get done running the race.
Yeah. So speaking of great breakfast, I'm going back to the Heartland 39.3 series because you had to make a change on a race. Out goes the cows and in comes Garmin. This is the second time you've worked with the Garmin race, the Land of Oz marathon, as they call it. Is that correct?
Yeah, we just got involved for the first time last year and help them out with the course and timing and such. And when Running with the Cows said it right after the race last year, or right before the race, that this was going to be their last year.
Yeah, that they were done.
And they've done a great job over the years. That was part of the original Heartland 39.3. And that first year, they were overwhelmed with registrations, partly because of the series, and famously put the word out to their congregation there at the church that we needed some more food because the food donors that they'd had from the different restaurants and such weren't going to be able to handle this big crowd.
Yep.
And it turned into the world's biggest church potluck breakfast ever and brunch, everything, all types of food. And that became kind of their signature. You might see some cows out on the course, but they do a great job making it fun. It's well organized. It benefits their school there and some of the missions of the church. And it's, I always say it's a big PTA race.
Yeah.
And with the emphasis on big. And when they said, and I wasn't surprised that they had, burnt out and having trouble getting people to step forward and take responsibility for it for the next year, we had to act pretty quickly. And so we went to the Garmin folks and said, could we fold your race in? The timing of it really worked well. We're going to be back to what we originally were able to do at one time, and that is have 3 races in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that makes that 39.3 challenge a true challenge for the half marathon. And then the Running with Cows folks decided they could find some new people to be in charge of it, ask us to stay involved with it, and we're excited to do that. Really looking forward to working with them on it.
Oh, good.
The Hometown Half Series, I was excited to find another group of races together that they can be a part of, because at one time they were the smaller race and were benefiting by some of the larger races that they were affiliated with, and now they're one of the larger races that are going to be helping out some of the smaller halves that they're partnering with on this new Hometown Half Series.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess I didn't see that they were listed in that Hometown Half, but I'm glad they're still involved, because I had always enjoyed that race, first going out there when they were part of the Heartland series. So that's cool. And then going back to Garmin that's fun as well, except I still remember the days when they had the construction. So the course had to move out west to that awful course out off what I think was like K7 and Ridgeview area. Oh, still have nightmares about that course. That one kicked my rump.
We don't do any races of our own in Olathe, and there's not a ton of races in Olathe. This race is put on by the Chamber of Commerce, the Garmin Marathon, Olathe Marathon. And so they get a lot of corporate support to make this successful, and primarily through the Garmin organization, but have had to overcome many municipally imposed hurdles to make it happen. Now, the city also does a great job of helping them pull it off. It just, they got things that they're trying to please a number of people, and that's a challenge anytime you're a political. But I think they've got some new leadership for the event on the chamber, and they've got a good history of support from volunteers in that area. And so I think it's going to be a great race, and they're way up. Registrations are way up this year, partially in small part due to series being part of the 39.3 series. The half marathon's already bigger than it was last year when it was race day. Okay. And the other events are big too. And so hopefully, it's going to be just a natural fit, and people are going to be really pleased when it's over that the change was made, and that race, as well as Running with the Cows, will have great years and continue to be strong going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Both races I've done several times a piece, and both of them I really enjoy. So yeah, I hope they do. The Garmin one is not one I would ever try that full marathon though. That seems like too much.
26 miles is tough,
Oh yeah.
I mean, wherever you do it, Kansas City Marathon, you don't realize how far it is until you do a race like that and see how much of the community you see.
Yeah,
and
you see all of it.
Go through. Yeah, it's crazy. My hat's off to the organizers of the Kansas City Marathon, because they take through numerous neighborhoods and numerous challenges and logistical nightmares. The big challenge in Kansas City, Missouri now is the streetcar line. I'm a huge advocate of the streetcar. It's fabulous, but it cuts through the heart of the city and is going to cut deeper through the heart of the city. And races do not cross the streetcar line.
No, that'd be a bad idea.
It's not allowed.
Yeah.
And so they don't stop the streetcar for anybody. So it's created a challenge for a lot of us. We're going to have some work to do on the Plaza 10K course to make some adjustments to us in the next couple of years to accommodate the extension of the streetcar clear through to UMKC. But like I say, it's a good thing. I'm all about streetcar. But, we're lucky on the Plaza 10K to run on a pretty flat course, east and west. And east and west is not going to be as available. North and south gets substantially hillier.
Yes, it is.
So we're going to have to figure out the best way to make that still a popular course, but not infringe on the streetcar.
Yeah, boy, that's a good point. Not one I'd ever thought of. That streetcar is moving farther and farther south, and it does. It cuts a line right through all the courses, at least the ones I'm thinking of right now. So, geez, I don't envy your position.
Hospital Hill's already adjusted their course.
Yep.
The marathon made some tweaks last year. I think they're. I don't know if they're going to be able to, because they cross the streetcar line. So they may be able to do it just because it's right at the very beginning, and they may be able to time it to where they can get all the runners through the plaza early in the race while everybody's still bunched up together and not be impacting it too much. But on the north end, it goes underneath Main Street. And the main reason why is because the streetcar goes on Main Street. So,
oh, geez. Yeah, that's going to add increasing difficulties, I guess, as the years go on, because it sounds like they really want to move that thing just and keep it trucking on south to UMKC and beyond.
Potentially spurs east and west, and the east and west will then really hamstring us. But it's a good thing in the city. I guess a side benefit of taking runners all over the Kansas City is they say, hey, I like this neighborhood, I might move to this neighborhood, or hey, I like this place to work, I might relocate our business there. And so there's a lot of great things going on in Kansas City, and the running community is just one part of it.
Absolutely. We also have a pretty decent football team, at least, so I've heard.
Yeah, they exposed a lot of people to downtown that maybe don't get down there very much the last couple of days.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for the time. So anyone can go to the Kansas City Running Company website. You guys have your calendar. That's where I go whenever I'm looking at all my races and my scheduling, is to go to your website and look at the calendar, and you've got everything and how to register for everything and all the upcoming races, and do pretty well on keeping that calendar updated, which, as a person who plans a lot and plans in advance, I do thank you guys that you normally have your races out there at quite the distance so I can get the weekend marked off and get myself registered.
Well, I'll apologize a little bit for it right now. We're in the process of switching over to a new website. The hackers got a hold of our old website and has made it a little tough to update right now, but we're in the process of transition. But yeah, if you follow us on Facebook, we try to just beat the drum as much as we can about upcoming events and set up event pages and such. And then, on Run Sign Up, virtually all of our races and virtually all the races we work with are on Run Sign Up. And so we're learning how to use that tool to a greater extent to help runners plan for upcoming events too.
Yeah. And your Facebook presence is a huge help, because I see the post all the time of the events and when things are changed, if there's a time change, an address change, whatever. So no, that is glorious. Of course, there's the store that you guys have out in Martin City, which I need to get down there. I need to pick up a medal from the Sweetheart Run because I couldn't make that race due to injury. Someone picked up my packet for me, but didn't grab a medal. Yeah. What do you guys do with all your old medals?
So we hang on to them for quite a while, because every once in a while somebody will come forward and say, hey, do you still have the 2021 Monster Dash medal? Because that was so awesome, but I never got around. And, we're kind of over here in Martin City, not handy for a lot of people. So we get that But then every once in a while, we just are stacked to the gills with boxes of old medals. And we cut the ribbons off of them and take them to a metal recycler and get about 3 cents on the dollar and put them to somebody else's use. And I hate to do it. I absolutely hate to do it. I hate seeing those great looking medals cut into shreds, but between leftover shirts and leftover medals, we're stacked to the gills, and I'm bad about letting go of stuff anyway. So it can compound the.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I still have every medal from every race I've done. There's no way I can part with them. I'm not getting rid of them. Nope. I have all my medals and all my shirts. They're not going anywhere.
One thing we do that I would encourage others, if they ever get to where they've had enough, they don't have room for their medals anymore, is periodically we take some over to Children's Mercy, especially the holiday themed ones or the ones that have a kind of a fun character on them. And they'll use them to give to kids who were able to sit still during an MRI or who had done a really good job accomplishing a treatment program. And that's kind of a fun way for them to get reused. There's organizations that recycle metals, but sometimes they're real sticklers about whether it's a metal that has been earned or just a leftover metal. And I think a kid doesn't care how that metal, what process that metal's had getting to them. They just like getting it. And so we also do that. We just have more leftover than Children's Mercy can accommodate. So sometimes we have to recycle them.
Well, yeah, no, that's a great idea. Never thought of that because I know not everyone keeps their medals. I do, but I know not everybody does. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to try and talk to you in the future as we've got some other race related stuff coming up as it maybe pertains to the podcast here. So that's my tease. But this is Brad from Kansas City Running Company. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kyle.
My thanks again to Brad for coming on. Again, I know we probably ran a little long on this, but if you were like me, you wanted to keep hearing about things and keep hearing about these races coming down the pipe and like the really cool thing that's going to happen in November with that Yeti challenge, that is going to be super fun. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, talk about a fountain of knowledge in the running world. Brad has pretty much seen and done it all. So a huge thank you to Brad for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, next week, we're gonna recap the John Brown half marathon, which we'll be doing Saturday morning. And it's the first time that race has been done. So it'll be interesting to be able to talk about that, see how we liked it. And then we are going to talk about September 17th. So I hope you guys will be back for the podcast and we'll be ready to rumble. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I am your host, Kyle Walker. My pleasure, as always. The show is produced and brought to you and made wonderful to listen to. And trust me, me and my raw form is no good. So Katie soups us all up for us. Producer Katie, thank you much. And we'll be back next week with another new episode. Everyone have a great week of training. Spring is right around the corner. The weather has been very cooperative, so I hope you're getting out there and taking full advantage. We'll see you next week.